little bit late. We got a little bit delayed with some technical issues, but we're live and we're going to be discussing today something very cool. We're going to go a little bit sciencey, but we're going to share with you some very powerful ways in which the technology I created for my PhD work, and which is a basis of one of the organizations that I created called CytoSolve works. But we're also going to talk about it in a very, very specific way, how it actually can be used to understand joint health. Everyone knows that joint health, I think about 40 million Americans have at some point in their life an issue with osteoarthritis. And osteoarthritis is a little bit different than just arthritis because it has to do with mechanical action. So if you have your knee cartilage destruction, but it actually comes from mechanical stress versus where you get just inflammation coming from other processes. So we're going to talk about osteoarthritis, joint health, and then I'm going to actually share with you first of all, you're going to learn what CytoSolve actually is. There's been an unfortunate set of events, which we'll talk about later this evening, where, when you start exposing truth, people start taking advantage of that and they do big lies. And we'll talk about that later. But we're going to really talk about what is CytoSolve. And then we're going to show you in a very, very powerful way how this very powerful technology that I invented can actually be helped to understand combinations of natural compounds. So I know people are joining. So we'll discuss that. First of all, before I start that everyone who's joining should know that my name is Dr.SHIVA Ayadure, and I'm running for United States Senate. I'm an MIT PhD. I created the first email system in the world. I'm a scientist. I'm an inventor. I do a lot of different things. But most importantly, what I'm really about is three things: truth, freedom, and health. My life has been a long journey into science, into the world of invention, which demands freedom, and also committed to health on many, many levels over the last 50 years. But key to this aspect is what's come up for me is that I've decided to run for US Senate. And the important thing everyone should know is because of our incredible volunteers, you see, to get on the US Senate ballot in Massachusetts, you have to collect thousands of signatures. And with the coronavirus, a lot of these politicians, in fact, all of them pay people to collect. In fact, that's what they normally do. We actually collected bottoms up. We got over 15,000 signatures from our incredible volunteers, men and women, working people. And we're on the ballot. In fact, we're the first on the ballot for US Senate in Massachusetts. However, our campaign for US Senate in Mass is fundamentally becoming a global campaign because everyone's realizing that the content, the educational way that I come from is really about recognizing without freedom, you can't have truth. Without truth, we can't get to health. And without health, we're not strong enough to fight for freedom. So I just want to briefly share with you, for some of you, this may be review. This is our Senate website. And if you go to our Senate website, one of the cool things we have right now is we have this big button here, which basically says, I stand for truth, freedom, and health. I pledge now to vote for Shiva. Our campaign is very different. Those people come here. If you're outside of Massachusetts, please tell all your friends who are inside of Massachusetts to come here, click on this button. And when they come here, they can simply give their first name, their party affiliation, their last name, and they can basically pledge to vote for us. We want to get lots of people supporting our campaign now. The other thing that people should know is that our campaign also is an interactive campaign where it's a two-way street. People who support our campaign, if they, for example, donate to our campaign, have an awesome opportunity to actually get access to one of the, I don't write a lot of books. I do write, but I'm very careful not to be some guy who just writes tons of stuff. But this is a great book called System and Revolution. And there's also a tool I created called Your Body, Your System. And I'll come back to this later, but basically, I'm a big proponent that people need to understand how systems work. And what we've done is anyone who donates to our campaign, particularly if they're in the United States, 25 or more, we give you the book and access to Your Body, Your System. And by the way, given the coronavirus, one of the things we've done is if people can't handle this, they're due to economic distress, give whatever you can and we'll support it. But the cool thing is System and Revolution is really about what is a system and how is your body a system so you can understand it. So that's one of the key things everyone should take away from this. Let me go back here. And what I want to walk you through is, first of all, we're going to walk through what is CytoSolve now. And then we're going to walk through the actual, the analysis of what we created here. So I'm going to have to stop sharing screen here, and I'm going to share the screen with the actual application we have here. Okay, great. So there we go. Okay. So if you go to my website, vashiva.com, this is my personal website. You can have a deep understanding of all the different kinds of things I do. But if you go to vashiva.com, you'll see that right on the top, there's a big thing sharing with how I invented the first email system, my run for Senate, as a activist, and then CytoSolve. So what is CytoSolve? First of all, if you go to cytosolve.com, you'll see that it's really a 23rd century platform for discovery. And when I created CytoSolve, I just finished graduate school. We're trying to figure out who would use this kind of technology. One of the important things to understand is innovation goes through various cycles. First, you make something, you create something called a car, and then you have to find people actually drive it around and then give you back feedback. But the more customers you get, you learn a lot from them. So during 2003 to 7 is when I created CytoSolve. During 7 to 9, I went back to India to study Indian systems of medicine, and then came back to the United States, taught at MIT for a couple of years. And during 2012 is when my advisor at MIT decided we'd create a company. Now, when you create a company, first of all, you have to validate it. You try to get people to use it. So we were very fortunate. We got all different kinds of people to use it. And our intention, as you'll see, was to really use CytoSolve to eliminate animal testing and to create and discover things faster and things that didn't hurt people. So that's what CytoSolve is about. So let me go back to this and we can walk you through it. So if you go here, what we've done here is our mission at CytoSolve is to really revolutionize health in a very fundamental way to discover the right medicine for the right person at the right time. That's what CytoSolve is really about. And let me just start this again. And particularly food, supplements, and therapeutics. Look, there's two types of compounds in the world. One set of compounds is natural compounds. I eat an orange. It's got hesperidin in there. It's got vitamin C. These are called naturally occurring compounds. Then there are non-naturally occurring compounds, things that people synthesize. That's what pharmaceuticals are. They don't exist in nature. They may be derived from nature, but they manipulate them. And then the aspect of putting these things together, we could create functional foods, for example, or supplements that you get, those of us who take supplements, like vitamin D, for example. Vitamin D, in some ways, it's a refined supplement. Pharmaceutical companies make it, non-pharmaceutical companies make it, but it has to go through a certain process. You don't just get vitamin D3, just the thing that you get in those pills. Your body has various forms of it. So that's something important to remember. So what I do at CytoSolve, one of the goals of creating CytoSolve was that we wanted to really create a breakthrough technology for modeling molecular pathways, such as the immune system on the computer, to discover medicines faster, cheaper, and safer, while eliminating the need for animal testing. So this is something everyone should recognize, that what I make at CytoSolve is we don't make vitamins, we don't make pharmaceuticals, we don't make vaccines. We actually create mathematical models. I hope that's clear. It's a little bit weird to understand, but we actually do math, We actually understand molecular equations, and we actually create systems of molecular equations, which we actually create mathematical models. And then it's almost you're taking reality and it's like a virtual reality. We're trying to model, for example, how the human cellular processes take place. And by that, once we have an understanding of that, which takes a lot of effort, by the way, and I created the technology which allows us to do this modeling, then we can actually test virtually on the computer whether this would work, whether that would work. And by the way, if you didn't have a tool, which this is why, the value of this is you don't have to go through all this mindless process of animal testing and doing a lot of wet lab. You can, before you waste your time, you can figure stuff out on the computer. So let me make this a little bit bigger. I hope everyone can see this, okay? This is the process which I've talked about, why pharmaceutical companies are failing. And the reason they're failing is this is a very long process to create a single drug. What they do is they find a new compound, like this is sort of a synthetic compound. Now, this could be a natural compound. Let's say you take vitamin C. You test it in a test tube, It's called in vitro. Then you go test it in an animal. So if you're trying to say, oh, I think vitamin C can cure, cancer, well, you'd have to first test it on animal cells, human cells in a test tube. Then you test it in an animal which actually has cancer. And then after this phase, you have to go to the FDA and you have to actually file for what's called an FDA allowance. So they will allow you then to go test on humans. That's what these three, this big box is: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 are different groups of humans. So now think about what we're sharing here. Less than 20% of the stuff that goes into phase 1 even works. So what that means is they do test tube testing, then they kill a bunch of animals, which is really unfortunate, and they go test on small groups of humans. Now, only after it makes it out of that, the FDA is all concerned about what's called toxicity. So they want to see, does your ingredient kill people? And if it doesn't, then they'll let you keep going down to larger and larger groups of people. But what you see here is 20% entering phase 1 don't even make it. And the reason they don't make it is because they should have known long time in the in vitro and in vivo. So that's why when I looked at this process, I said, wow, imagine if we could do stuff on the computer. We could actually save a lot of money, a lot of time, and number one, save people's lives by reducing what's called toxicity. If you watch those very funny pharmaceutical ads, typically at the end of it, they'll say, and this and this and this and this could happen. Natural products don't do that. That's why everything we do at CytoSolve now is all natural products. When we first started out of MIT, we got very lucky. Some of the very highly innovative companies, the innovative groups at Pfizer, for example, or Alnylam came to us, and many of those companies stopped using us because they saw that we would probably discover toxicities, and they don't want that up front because people want to keep going through their process. But we were able to validate our technology. For example, we modeled, things like lupus on the computer, and I'll share some of that with you. So if you go here, the way that we do this process today is not that different than the way we used to build airplanes. You have a new wing design, you throw a pilot in, and if he fails, you say, gee whiz, he failed. This is how, frankly, most, whether it's pharmaceutical development, nutraceutical supplements, there's a lot of snake oil here. People really don't know what's working at the molecular level. So what they do is they actually go and then they just, in the old days when they did with airplanes, if someone failed, people lost their lives. So the model was, when I looked at this, I said, look, there's got to be a better way of doing this, because why are we killing people's lives and hurting people's lives? And if you look at the problem with the entire medical establishment is that they don't want to look at the whole. They only want to look at the parts, like the blind man looking at the parts of the elephant. So if you think cancer or a disease is the elephant, the scientists are looking at pieces of this. And in fact, if they ever work together, you'd get something like this. This is called reductionism. And the goal here was, could we do something better? And so if you look at what's happening with pharmaceuticals, is they're actually failing. Year over year, that bar chart represents more and more money they spend in R&D, and they're finding less and less new drugs because they're unsafe. That's what's going on. And what you'll see here is that I wanted to take a systems approach, and that developed this very powerful engine that I created. Again, it's a computational engine called CytoSolve. And CytoSolve really came out of recognizing that the entire process of understanding biology was screwed up. What you're seeing here is in the early 1990s, we thought a human being had about 100,000 genes. And by 2003, it turns out we only have about 20,000 genes. So we only have 20,000 genes in our body. We don't have millions of genes. So this flipped biology on its head, and it led to a field called systems biology, which said, if you're going to understand the whole, we need to understand all the pieces up and coming to that whole. So the goal was, one of the challenges that came out of this was, could we mathematically model the entire human cell? So all of us have around 6 trillion cells, as I've shared before. If we could model the entire human cell, then we could actually figure out what works and what doesn't. So the National Science Foundation in 2003 put forward this grand challenge, which is, could you mathematically model the cell? And that's the challenge I took on from my MIT PhD work, and that resulted in creating CytoSolve. But before I get there, if you go to the literature, So just to keep it simple, if you want to look at osteoarthritis or cancer, there's thousands of papers written out in the literature, people looking at little pieces of the problem. And those little pieces of the problem look like something like this, where someone will do an experiment, on some animal or some test tube, and they'll find chemical A reacts with chemical B to get chemical C. This is called a molecular network. And so there's tons of these little papers out there. So what my theory was, if I could get all those papers, convert them to models, which is what's on the right here, and interconnect them together mathematically, we could actually figure out a very powerful way to model complex functions. And that really resulted in CytoSolve. So in order to do something like this, you'd have to need a different approach. So if this blue circle represents osteoarthritis, and by the way, there's around 22,000 papers. There's 22,000 papers written on osteoarthritis if you went to PubMed. So imagine no one here on this call has enough time to go look at all those papers. But the computer, what we designed is a way that we could extract the molecular pathways, convert them to models, and interconnect them. And that's what CytoSolve is. CytoSolve became my invention that took around 5 years at MIT to create. And CytoSolve allows us to do that. And what you're seeing here is this was one of the first papers I wrote. And what we were able to do was, instead of doing this process, we said, you know what? Let's actually not kill animals. Let's mine all the data, model things on the computer. So when we have different compounds, we could do this much ahead. Instead of doing this, we do all of this up front. I hope that's making sense. So what we're saying is, instead of going and wasting time, test tubes and killing animals, imagine if we could do all of that on the computer. So that's what this diagram really represents. It's about a whole way to do this, just like how we build airplanes. I don't know if most people know, but many of the airplanes that are built on the computer. Everything's tested on the computer, so we don't have to kill animals and we don't have to kill human beings. It's all done on the computer. So what I created was a technology to do that for the human cells. So what we're able to do here is we're literally able to take all the papers in a field, organize them, extract out the molecular pathways, create an architecture, and mathematically model it. It's quite revolutionary. People didn't think this was possible to do, but that's what I did for my PhD work. And then what we've done recently is we've applied this to an interesting area called joint health. So before I go there, I just want to see if people have any questions on this. Let me see if people got questions up here. Okay, good. So nothing there really. Everyone looks like they're keeping up. Okay, so now I'm going to show you something really cool. So we went through 22, what I'm going to share with you is going to come out shortly, but we went through 22,000 papers, 22,000 papers. So if you go, just to share with you over here, if I stop the screen here and I shared over here and I went, let's say to my Chrome tab here, or let's go to the application window and let me actually go here. So if I went over here and I shared with you, let's go, for example, right here. And if I went to PubMed, by the way, PubMed, some of you may know, is the repository that holds all the scientific papers in the world. So if I typed in osteoarthritis, okay, like knee osteoarthritis, you will see there are nearly 36,000 papers, okay? It was more than 22,000. We actually went through probably a little bit less than that at the time we did it. But you see there's 36,000 papers. So we literally went through all of those papers and we mined those papers. So we literally went through all of those papers and we said, could we create a mathematical model of knee osteoarthritis? And that's what we ended up doing. And I'm going to share that with you. Let's go back here. So again, we went through all of those papers, mined them, and then from that mining, we went and we actually went and understood all the molecular reactions taking place. So I think I want to go here. Great. So I go back here, and I'm going to share with you something really cool here. So what I'm going to share with you, everyone should get really excited about this. We literally took all those papers and we organized and we created a really cool diagram here representing the molecular pathway. So your knee has synovial tissue, and that has all different kinds of cells. Your knee also has cartilage, and the cartilage is made of a chondrocyte. By the way, this is a tool that I also created with our team. And if you go to chondrocytes, you can literally see the ligands. Ligands are those things that land on the cell surface. Some of them are things called cytokines. Remember, we've heard about the cytokine storm? Well, this is what they are. For example, IL-1 beta is one of those cytokines. And when IL-1 beta hits your cells, it will create other molecules. So you're seeing all these red ones are molecules that are upregulated. I mean, the red ones are things that are downregulated, and the green ones are things that are upregulated right here. So if I go to MMPP13, which is not a good molecule you want to have, what you see here is that we're able to go in and see MMPP13 causes cartilage degeneration, and you're actually able to see your IL-1 beta, all the different things that are involved in creating MMPP13. But look at this. Here's if you take ginseng, we're then able to actually go to that paper. Okay, so we're able to do with CytoSolve is what we've done here is we've taken all the papers in the universe, organized them, and then extracted out all the molecular pathways and been able to mathematically get them ready to be modeled. Okay, is that clear to everyone? We just check if everyone's following. Yep. So this is not AI. AI is a little bit different. This is actually mechanisms. We're actually understanding how the ankle bone's connected to the foot bone. The problem with AI, it's like big data. This is actually understanding mechanisms. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. And now I'm going to share with you some very, very cool results. So we took on joint health. So the promise I made here is we looked at various supplements, vitamin C, green muscle lipid, sodium hyaluronate. And we actually looked at how those particular supplements affect joint health. So let's go look at first of all, what is joint health? What is actually joint health? So we need to have an understanding of what joint health is. So let's define joint health. What is joint health? Okay. So first of all, everyone talks about joint health, but what is joint health? And what you're going to see is with all those molecular pathways, which we've understood. So think about it. We've done the work of millions and millions of people with this technology. We've brought in all those papers together, understood all the mechanisms, all the blind men touching the different parts of the elephant, organized them with CytoSolve. And based on that organization, now we've mathematically modeled. So let's go over here to see what we're talking about here. So what you see here is what is joint health? And what you'll see is joint health is not just joint health. Okay. And this is where I want everyone to listen carefully. Joint health actually involves multiple things. First of all, it involves inflammation. So you want to reduce inflammation. It involves oxidative stress, where if you're under a lot of physical stress or pain, your body creates reactive oxygen species. It involves actually degeneration of the cartilage, and it also involves regeneration of the cartilage. So to put it simply, if you want to have great joint health, you want low inflammation. Yeah, you want to have, thanks, Michelle. You want to have low oxidative stress. You want to decrease cartilage degeneration, and you want to increase cartilage regeneration. Okay, so these are four of those mechanisms out of that big thing that I showed you that we took. So inflammation involves many different molecular pathways. Oxidative stress involves a whole bunch of other pathways. Cartilage degeneration involves all these molecular pathways, and so does cartilage regeneration. So what you can see here is there's many different mechanisms. So when you talk about joint health, it's actually a lot of different molecular reactions. Michelle, can I have the charger? I'm about to run out. It involves many different molecular reactions. So imagine if you could map out all those molecular reactions. So it's not just guesswork, which is what a lot of the supplements are. A lot of the pharma guys, they're just shooting out there, try this, try that, kill people. Whether it's, in fact, some of the supplements are great, but there's a lot of them which are just snake oil. And this is the same true of even pharmaceutical side, cosmeceuticals, nutraceuticals. So our goal with CytoSolve is to bring truth, scientific truth, because if we can model those molecular reactions, we can find out what works. So let's go back here. So here we've looked at all these molecular reactions, okay? And so in order to have really good joint health, there are certain chemicals that we discovered in the body from our analysis that need to be lowered or raised for you to have great joint health, okay? So for example, if you want to have great joint health, you want to lower inflammation, right? And that means PGE2, think about that as a variable, and LT84. These are two variables we want to bring down. And there's another variable called ROS, which causes oxidative stress. You want to bring that down. Not good to have in your body. MMPP13, which is cartilage degeneration, you want to bring that down. And collagen formation, you want to bring up, right? So you see a lot of people talking about, let me eat collagen, bone broth. Well, that's about building collagen. But the bottom line is we want to do these things to bring these things down and these things up. So what we can do with CytoSolve, we can actually model those molecular pathways. And I'm going to give you sort of the end of the story, and then we'll go to the beginning on how we got there. But there are, if you go, like if you have a dog or a cat, if you want joint formulation, you'll find that these people typically put all these different ingredients. Chondroitin sulfate, some people think it's good, or vitamin E, or vitamin C, or MSM, boswellia, green lipid muscle, hyaluronic acid, yucca, or glucosamine. These are the typical things, thanks Michelle, that people typically put in these joint products. Now you ask them, why did you make that joint formulation? Most of them can't even explain why they put that together. But with CytoSolve, we have the ability to actually understand why. So we're going to walk you through. I'm assuming some of you may have heard about these items. Yeah, so we went through about 35,000 papers. You can't do this with any other technology. But what I created, I'm pretty proud of it because this was one of my goals. If you remember, I've shared my grandmother used to mix in that village all different combinations of herbs. And if you ask her how she did, I couldn't understand. With CytoSolve, at least I can get to a decent understanding, at least from my perspective. Okay. But what we see here is, I'm sharing with you the end of the story, but what you see here is if you look at, discomfort, which is inflammation, you want to really lower these two variables, LTB4 and PGE2. And you can see boswellia has if you can see, it's a little bit green effect on LTB4, but green lipid muscle and yucca and glucosamine together have very good effects on lowering PGE2 from our analysis. Over here, you can see that MSM, vitamin C, vitamin E, chondroitin have a very good effort in lowering reactive oxygen species, meaning oxidative stress. And over here, hyaluronic acid and yucca and glucosamine, from our analysis, have a good effect in lowering MMPP13. This is what causes cartilage degradation. And then chondroitin sulfate and also hyaluronic acid have a decent amount of effect on rebuilding cartilage. Okay, so what you're able to see from this really cool analysis, and I'm going to go how we got here. This is a math. So behind that graph is like millions of computing cycles of mathematics that the mathematics I created, which is called mathematical models, allow you to do. Okay, so over here. Let me go through this. And by the way, what's really, and what you see here is these are, for each of these ingredients, these are the active molecules. So in chondroitin sulfate, it's chondroitin sulfate. Vitamin E, vitamin C, it's vitamin E and C. Same with MSM. But with boswellia is a very cool herb. It's got ACPA, it's got BA and quercetin. Green lipid muscle really has EPA and DHA. Hyaluronic acid has hyaluronic acid. And yucca has really resveratrol. And glucosamine has glucosamine. So what I want to let you know is when you really look at this, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different ingredients that we're combining. 12 different ingredients are being combined. And this is if you go to most joint health products, if you look on Whole Foods or you go to a vitamin store, this is what they're throwing in. And the problem is in a lot of this industry, even in our vitamin industry, people just throw stuff together, but they don't know what is having the effect. So they may be wasting their money. You could be taking something that really has no effect or could in fact potentially at high dosages hurt you, but we can figure that out here. So what we're able to do with CytoSolve. So first of all, I'm going to look at the pathway of reducing joint inflammation. And what we're able to do with CytoSolve, we're literally able to run. So we're going to look at these two, and there's 7 molecules. We're literally able to run analysis. So remember, if you know a little bit of animal testing, what they do is they have or control. They take a bunch of animals that they give just salt water to a placebo, and the others they actually give the supplement. Okay, and then they test them, and then they sometimes have to kill the animals. And they have to see, did this supplement do this, etc., which is unfortunate. What we're able to do the same thing on the computer. So what you're seeing that we're doing here is we have control, where we did not give any ACPA, which is the ingredient which comes from boswellia. So in control, you have high levels of inflammation as represented by LTB4. And then with the joint formulation, you can see it goes down, okay? So it goes down somewhat significantly. I mean, I actually bet it looks like about 10% here, right? Or 20% from 40. I'm sorry, 10% would be 4.8. Yeah, it goes around 5%. Okay, it says a minimal amount of effect. Over here, quercetin had no effect, you see? So from our view, quercetin had very little effect in affecting this variable LTB4. And over here, beta BA, which also comes from boswellia, it had a very good effect in lowering LTB4. And then if you look at the synergistic combination of all those things in boswellia, it has this effect in lowering one aspect of inflammation. Now, PGE2, just to give you an idea, if you ever have a lot of pain going on, and if someone took your blood, they would find high levels of PGE2. If you ever have to, if you're in severe pain, some people may take Advil, which is called ibuprofen, which is a generic name. When you take that, what it does, it blocks a pathway, so it lowers PGE2. That's why the inflammation goes down. And so here, what we're seeing is that we're now analyzing, again, this on the computer. If you take EPA, has an effect, which is the thing in the green muscle lipid, lowering it significantly from what we're looking around 14 down to around 6. This is quite extraordinary. This is why, remember, EPA, these things come from things like the fatty fish, the salmons, etc. And over here, we're looking at the same thing. DHA doesn't have as much of an effect, but you can see EPA is a lot more effect, which are the two ingredients in green muscle lipid. And then we're looking at glucosamine, has very little effect from our analysis. So CytoSolve, again, is telling you that if you want to reduce inflammation, glucosamine doesn't do a lot. And over here, I'm sorry, I think it's the same thing here. Yep, it's the same thing. Sorry about that. And here, you're looking at the synergistic effect of green muscle lipid, glucosamine, everything on this. So when you throw the whole kitchen sink on it, it has a very good effect in lowering inflammation. Okay. Now we go to oxidative stress, which involves about 5 key molecules. And you can see here, here's a test condition, and we're bringing it down with this combination. And you can see same here with vitamin E. Vitamin E has a decent effect. This is in the formulation product. This is about 2.5 grams. You can see it has a good effect. And same here at glucosamine, also has an effect in bringing down oxidative stress. And then we're looking at MSM. MSM has a pretty good effect also in bringing down oxidative stress. And so does, on ROS production. And this is a synergy of all of them put together, okay, on the combined effect of bringing down oxidative stress. So in summary, what I just shared with you here is, first we looked at what can reduce pain, which is inflammation. And you can see the boswellia has a lot of good effect. And then we looked at the synergistic compound bringing down oxidative stress. And that's what we just shared with you now. Finally, we can go look at MMPP13. So what is MMPP13? Again, just to be clear, MMPP13 is a chemical in your body. When it's at high levels, guess what it does? It causes cartilage degeneration. And that's not something you want to have. You don't want MMPP13 in your body. And there are cytokines that will create MMPP13. So when they talk about the cytokine storm that's taking place, we're immunosuppressed. If you have the cytokine storm taking place, your body is going to actually release things called MMPP13. And when that's in high levels, it starts eating away at your cartilage, okay? But what we're going to share now in the next part of the presentation is, out of all those ingredients, some of those ingredients help lower MMPP13. So let's look at what those are. Let me just make sure everyone's keeping along. I know I'm hitting a lot of technical stuff. Okay, great. All right. So what we're seeing here now is, let's go here. So we're looking at MMPP13 production, cartilage degeneration. So we're looking at the one molecule we're looking at is glucosamine, which, and I think there's something else. We're looking at vitamin C, and we're looking at resveratrol. So let's look at this. Glucosamine, some of you may have heard of it, on MMPP13 has an effect where it does bring it down. Look at 456 levels, and it brings it down to around 448. Okay, so it looks like it has a pretty good effect on lowering MMPP13 production. Here's hyaluronic acid. This is 456.2, a little bit of an effect, because if you look at the units here, and then you look at resveratrol, resveratrol is what occurs in the skin of red grapes, if you drink red wine. And you see here, it brings it down appreciably. And then when you put them all together, you can see it brings it down from 456 all the way down to 448. You see individually, they have minimal effects, and that's called a synergistic effect. And I want to talk about that. So one of the things CytoSolve is able to do to find the combination, this is why food is such an amazing thing, because this is why drugs, if you take a lot of it, that's what the drug companies do. They want you to give a lot of a single compound. Food is a little of a lot of little things. And when you take a lot of a little things, it hits different things and it causes what's called a synergistic effect. Okay? So the synergistic effect is what CytoSolve is able to identify. Before, this was all guesswork. And you know, people like my grandmother, she would just put in stuff. But with CytoSolve, we're actually able to do alchemy and find out what are the right levels of things that actually work. Okay? So that we just did MMPP13. Now, the thing I want to talk about is, you know, what can we do to regenerate cartilage? Okay. And collagen 2 is one of the most important indicators of are you regenerating cartilage. It's basically an anti-aging model, right? So what we're looking at here is we're going to now look at different things that affect that. So we're looking at two key molecules here. One of them is chondroitin sulfate, and the other we're looking at is hyaluronic acid. So just to be clear, there are two molecules, hyaluronic acid and chondroitin sulfate. These are the two things we're going to look at, because the others, by the way, have no effect at all on, on really doing cartilage regeneration. But these two do. Some of you, if you're putting stuff on your skin, you may see hyaluronic acid. Athletes were taking this, but now we're going to do the CytoSolve analysis to find out, remove the guesswork. So what we see is here, we're just giving hyaluronic acid and we're seeing collagen production. Look at this amazing effect. Oops, let me share this with you. This is quite extraordinary. This is one of my coolest slides, because you'll see that we're going from control, very low levels, and we're almost going up by, was it 10%? 20% nearly, from 1,500, 15%. So hyaluronic acid is quite powerful from CytoSolve's analysis. Now you look at effect of chondroitin sulfate. You can see we're doing a dose-dependent curve, it's called. We give a little bit, and what you can see here is after around 2.5 milligrams, it's not that much different. Everyone see this? Can everyone see this? I hope the people on Instagram can see this, but if you can see, what we're showing here is at a certain point, it doesn't matter how much you give. More doesn't just mean better. Some people think if I eat a lot of this supplement, but what happens is your body actually maxes out. That's why some of these companies who throw in so much stuff, it could hurt your liver on some level. So finding the dosage is actually important. And that's what we're able to do with CytoSolve. What is the right thing? And by the way, this could also vary with genetics. And I'll talk about when we get to your body, your system, the other tool I created. But someone said, I bet you have a beautiful tan. Okay. So here we go. So, but the point here is you see chondroitin sulfate. This is what the cool thing is. You can see as you give more dosage, it maxes out. There's no, according to this, beyond this at the cell level, there's no reason for that. But now when we combine both of them, look what happens. 1,500, we go to around 1,650. By itself, it's not that much. But the key thing is that hyaluronic acid is really driving all of this. So let me go back to, let me just stop here for a second and come back here. So what I wanted to share with you, at the end of the day, what you're seeing is that with CytoSolve, we're actually able to go down to the molecular level, actually compute this using mathematics. That's what CytoSolve does. We don't create any of this stuff. We don't have manufacturing facilities. We don't manufacture vaccines, as this foolish fellow, Robbie Kennedy, was trying to imply, because I was exposing what he was actually up to. It doesn't do any of that. We actually create mathematical models. In fact, with CytoSolve, it would be great to actually use it for toxicity. I think everyone should be very excited with what we're doing. In fact, last year we started, I came back from Argentina, and Argentina, you will see that they have what's called a bitter orange grows everywhere. People don't even pick it up because it's too bitter to eat. But that bitter orange has some very amazing nutrients, and we've been able to identify those nutrients, run them through CytoSolve. Again, everything we do is in the cloud. We make mathematical models. That's what we make. We don't make drugs. We don't make, in fact, we don't even make supplements. We don't make tea. We make mathematical models. Is that clear to everyone? Is that clear? So to everyone out there in Instagram world listening, that I think what we need to do is to recognize is that, you know, I'm committed to truth, freedom, and health, and always, and I will put my life on it. And even I will even take on someone like the Kennedys, which we just did, because the Kennedys believe only they can participate in politics. Only they are the ones that have the right to an opinion, and everyone else has no rights to any opinion. And the truth is, you know, whether it's you or I, working people have a right to an opinion. In fact, to actually talk about and exposing the fact that he is pro-vaccine, he does believe that we want more government intervention. He did support Hillary Clinton, who took money from Monsanto, believes in genetically engineered foods, etc. Now, my calling that out and then being attacked as a vaccine maker, think about the absurdity, because he goes and connects a logo to Pfizer. Pfizer actually gave us an innovation grant in their innovation because they wanted to see if CytoSolve can be used, the really cool guys, to see if it can be used to model lupus. We were doing it. In fact, the whole group disappeared because the big pharma companies don't want to use CytoSolve, okay? So everyone listening out there, I hope this has educated everyone. What is CytoSolve? CytoSolve is a very powerful engine. And I hope, you know, if you guys can find any vaccine or pharma companies who would use it, we'll love to run it through them. We'll find out all the toxicities long before, you know, long before you actually find out what the issues are. Okay, so let me take a little bit of time and go back to the summary here, because I want to summarize, because I promised you guys this. So when you look at, these are the mechanisms of joint health: inflammation, oxidative stress, cartilage degeneration, and this is what CytoSolve has discovered. And there are 5 variables that we want to bring down for you to have good joint health. So if you want to think about joint health, again, this is chemistry. So if people at Twitter or Facebook want to try to ban this, they really can't. It's coming from 20,000 papers that we've analyzed. So if we want to help joint health, and if you want to think about it, you should talk to your doctors about this. PG2 and LTB4 are 2 variables you want to bring down. Reactive oxygen species you want to bring down. You want to bring down MMPP13, and you want to increase collagen, okay? We want to increase collagen. And what we found here from this analysis, and what you want to look at, is each one of these columns are the aspects of joint health. So we start on the right with cartilage regeneration. This analysis is showing that chondroitin sulfate and hyaluronic acid seem to have a reasonable effect. But if you look at something like oxidative stress, you can clearly see the power of vitamin C, a little bit of vitamin E, and chondroitin and MSM having an effect. And in combination, they're better than just alone. And here you can see the effect of green lipid muscle combined with yucca and glucosamine. You see, by itself, it's a light green, but together it becomes a darker green, which means more efficacy. And then you can look over here. Boswellia seems to have a reasonable effect, but not that much. But you can really see the green lipid muscle, in my view. The vitamin C and over here chondroitin are your really big champions. So we can do other anything we want with this very powerful technology. So let me take some questions. Jen, I think Jen's there. I hope this clears up what we do with CytoSolve. And we have done some very, very cool research using CytoSolve recently. There's a paper we just published on military personnel, for example, take 5 different supplements. Military people take arginine, they take creatine, they take yohimbe, they take synephrine, and then they take caffeine. And I gave a talk at one of the military hospitals, and I was asked to actually, asked to be on an expert council to really understand how these combinations work. And I'll share that in the next lecture. This one says, Christine Kelly, except his results came from a computer program, not injecting things with substances, see what happens. This can also be tuned to the individuals. Nobody reacts exactly the same way. Josh, exactly. One of the cool things we can do with CytoSolve is that if we have your genetics, we can load that in. And we've just started doing this, where once we understand the inflammatory pathways, if you do a 23andMe or whatever, I can load that up and understand what are the right things for you? Because see, everyone is unique. That's why, before I close here, as someone said, Juniper Green, please stop telling Shiva to stop fighting and save his energy because he needs to do, just like Trump, if you do not fight for our freedom, get out of the way. Exactly. Yeah, those people who've never fought, maybe you came from, whatever background you came from, but those people who are working people like me, we have to fight. 28 million people right now, 30 million people are out of jobs, while Big Pharma is making tons of money. And people like Robbie Kennedy never have to fight. He got everything handed to him. I'm a fighter. I'm going to expose him. And if you want to join me, great. If you want to think I'm a vaccine manufacturer, then you can go to the slaughterhouse with him. But this is a battle for truth, freedom, and health. CytoSolve, my company. And by the way, people are setting themselves up for lawsuits saying I'm a vaccine maker, that I have agreements with Bill Gates and Clinton's. Think about how Robbie Kennedy, what he's doing right now. Just think about it. Think about what a sinister person he is. Show me love, you all. The like button. Get this in the algorithm family. We have to get Dr. Shiva together with Trump for humanity's survival. Exactly. Look, I am running in Massachusetts. Now that we're over with this, let me go back to the other business that everyone knows I enjoy. I love politics and I love science. Both are intertwined to me, and both are very important, because without truth, freedom, and health, you have nothing. You need all three things in this world these days. It's not just about any one thing. So let's talk a little bit about, if you go to our campaign, everyone out there should know that I'm running for US Senate. And by the way, everyone should know that, President Trump is a builder, right? I'm a builder. I make things. I'm an innovator. But I'm running right now against Robbie Kennedy's little nephew boy, who needs to call his uncle in to try to get rid of me, because they never thought we'd get on the ballot. They never thought a dark-skinned Indian guy who is a working-class kid who loves working people would get on the ballot, that it's their seat. You see, Robbie Kennedy actually thinks that that seat is his seat and his nephew's seat. It's not. It's our seat. It's a people's seat. And that's why I'm running for Senate, because if you look at the nonsense that just took place over the last 60 days, the lawyers and lobbyists, like the Kennedys and like the other people, were sleeping on their job while the deep state went off to destroy our country. That's what happened. They wanted to destroy our economy. They wanted to mandate vaccines top down, which, by the way, Robbie Kennedy's all for. He's for vaccinating everyone. Go listen to his video. It's right there. And the second part of it is they want to essentially force all of us to shut the hell up. And when you don't shut up, they make up lies. And fortunately, people are smart. And the people who support our campaign for truth, freedom, and health, it's a very unique person. They're not people, one day I like Dr. Shiva, and the other day, oh, he said something about Bobby Kennedy, I can't like him. These are very fickle-minded people. They don't, truth is truth is truth. Whether I'm talking the truth about the immune system or whether I'm talking about the truth about the Kennedys is still truth, period. So what we've done to share that truth for everyone today, I want to share with you that we have a very, very special, which I think I talked to you guys about yesterday, but I encourage everyone, first of all, everyone should take a little bit of time, and let me stop this right here. This is good. Everyone should take a little bit of time and go to this awesome website called vashiva.com/RFA exposed. RFA exposed. RFK exposed. Okay. So everyone should go to vashiva.com/RFK exposed. Okay. And what you'll see on the site is just the truth. Just like I share the truth about the immune system, just like I share the truth about Fauci, just like I share the truth about Gates or the Clintons, this site will give you, it's the ultimate scientific guide to understanding Robbie Kennedy. You'll understand that he supported Hillary. You'll understand that he endorsed Hillary, not once, 3 times. These are just facts. These are scientific facts. Okay? And it's not something you can run away from by getting a bunch of trolls to suddenly start calling you a vaccine maker, suddenly start calling you, this is just that I have a relationship with Bill Gates, or that I got money from the Clintons, okay? That's what this is about. What you see here, I want everyone to go to the site. Robbie Kennedy hung out with Jeffrey Epstein and was in his logs. Now, Jeffrey Epstein is a rapist, child trafficker, and so on. So these are just facts that people just have to, unfortunately, accept. And as I've also shared, again, go to vashiva.com/RFK exposed. And also, we've laid out all the lies of Robbie Kennedy right here. Dr. Shiva runs CytoSolve, as you've seen. we make mathematical models. We don't make vaccines. 2, we have 0 partnerships with Bill Gates. 3, we, you can go, everything's up there. 3, we continually are censored on social media, which he says we're not. And 4, I believe 5G is part of the surveillance state. And I'm actually getting data, just like I did here, before I just try to do something for popularity. Oh yeah, I'm for or against 5G. We're actually doing the mathematical analysis. And then I have 0 money from Clintons. By the way, many of you know that by today's end, we've challenged Mr. Robster, okay? Robster, my boy, to bring the evidence to show what vaccines I've created. He's got until 12 midnight. And what money I've gotten from the Clintons. He needs to show this because he's a lawyer. It's evidence. And the third thing he needs to show is fundamentally, what is, what's my relationship with Bill Gates? I'd really love to know. I've never met the guy. I've never had dinner like him, like he had with Epstein. So people should do that. But please go to the site, vashiva.com/RFK exposed. vashiva.com/RFK. So enough of him, enough of his nonsense, because that's what he is. He's a misleader. And by the way, I don't know if you guys know, Robbie Kennedy's now running because we've exposed him talking about unity. Unity. That's one of the big words of the deep state, not so obvious establishment. When they come under attack, they talk about unity, unity. This is not about unity. This is about truth. Galileo didn't need to unify with the 97 other people who are saying that the sun went around the earth. There is truth. There is truth, whether it be in politics or whether it be in the immune system. And the truth is, Joe Kennedy, who I'm running against here, knows I'm going to beat him. So he called his Uncle Pa, Robbie Kennedy, to come help. And the way the Kennedys work, remember, they just try to murder people's characters and God knows what else by big lies. Big lies is a technique. He's a vaccine maker. I'd love to know what vaccine I've made. I've made a lot of mathematical models. He's a model maker. That would be true. Okay? He has a relation with Gates. False. 0 relationship. So everyone who's getting this needs to understand that we are going after the center of the deep state. And the center of the deep state is not just the outer crust of it, the Faucis and the Gateses. The inner crust is a not so obvious establishment, the Kennedys and the people who control them. And that's what we're going after. And if people want to protect my safety, recognize that in today's world, it's not shooting people. It's about attacking people with character assassination. So that's why people need to go to vashiva.com/RFK exposed, read about it, share it. Go expose all of these trolls who are out there who Bobby Kennedy's paying for. That's what they do, because they don't really have any bottoms up movement. Now, if you go here on to Shiva for Senate, we're going against a Kennedy machine. The Kennedy machine has hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions. We don't need that, because I'll do it. $1 to Dr. Shiva I'd raise equivalent to 10 or 1,000. So everyone should go to the site, support the campaign. You can do a bunch of things. First of all, you can donate to the campaign. And everyone, like I said, I never feel good taking anything for nothing. I'm not like Bobby Kennedy, please give me money. I need more money to run my bars, for my events. To have, and that's a true story, okay? So what you see here is that here we are literally giving you an awesome book that I wrote. This wasn't written by ghostwriters, and an awesome tool called Your Body, Your System. And then if you can't afford 25, you can give more, but if you can't do that, give whatever you can, and we'll get this out to you. It's an ebook. It's accessible. And in closing, when you use this very powerful tool called Your Body, Your System, it's really about finding who you are, finding your homeostasis, but it's really systems training. So when you answer a bunch of questions, it'll find your particular body system. Then you answer another set of questions and you'll find out how you're deviated from that. And this is unique to you. By the way, just because your red dot is here or here, if it's in the center, it doesn't mean you're better or anything, okay? And then when you go here, the difference, you can see how far you're disturbed, which means you haven't been eating right, not enough sleep. And then it tells you, very cool, calculates the foods, the supplements, the right things, in fact, what are right for you. And what's cool about this tool that I'm really excited about is this is not about food and supplements. There's amazing healthcare people, but this will teach you where your body likes to be. It's called your system, and how you deviate from this. So we're not here waiting to get elected to do something. We're here all the way fighting, fighting, fighting. Joe Kennedy, the nephew I'm running against, he doesn't know how to fight. He's got to call in Robbie Kennedy, and Robbie Kennedy doesn't know how to fight. He's got a flail. And by the way, the last thing I want to let everyone know is, we'll talk more about this, Robbie Kennedy's now running because he knows my followers have exploded because of truth, because of organic, and because I've been hammering him. He's run off to Oprah Winfrey to run a unity event globally. This is the same thing how his father ran the march on the mall. You know, how he brought in Martin Luther King and got rid of revolutionary leaders like Malcolm X. This is what the Kennedys do. They think top down, they're going to be the leaders. And they don't like bottoms up guys like me or you. That's what this is about. This is about truth, freedom, and health. You will always get the truth from me. I'll take the heat, regardless of what it is, because truth matters. And that's what real science is. So with freedom to debate and discourse, we can practice the scientific method. And if you practice the scientific method, you will find that the ingredients that I just shared with you can have very powerful effects on increasing joint health. You'll also find what things support the immune system. And you'll also find, from a political standpoint, the ingredients of people who do sinister things, say one thing, go support Hillary Clinton, attack Bill Gates, but don't say anything against Hillary Clinton. These are not good people. All right? They have a different agenda. I have no agenda except one: truth, freedom, and health, period. And if you want to join me in that, great. And if you want to join me in that struggle, then this is the time for being warriors. If you go to RFK Exposed, vashiva.com, RFK Exposed, all the data is up there. Go share it. Go have a great fight fighting. I will develop always truthful content, truthful results. That's what you can get from me. Truth, freedom, and health. Billy Elson, bottoms up. Yes. So we've had all these people saying, I think you're a vaccine manufacturer. It's interesting. Just because Bobby Kennedy says it, people believe. Why is that? Because people believe the Kennedys. And that's the mystique we have to break. This is Stockholm Syndrome. And those people are fickle like that. They need to go to the slaughterhouse with them. But those of us who are listening here today truly want truth, freedom, and health. That's what this is about. Big Pharma, Sean Sullivan says, and the deep state are dangerous people. Truth, freedom, and health. Be smart. Education, nutrition first. Fantastic. Exactly, Sean. This is about you knowing the truth, being the light, and finding your way. You don't have to believe me. Everything I put out there, you can go do it. Oprah equals a secret propaganda bullshit. And that's who Robbie Kennedy's running to, because I started exposing him. The Kennedys know how to do things top down. That's what they do well. Now, if he were a true gentleman, he would have said, you know what? Hillary Clinton as much as a scumbag as Bill Gates. But he didn't do that because he got awards from them. And by the way, some great data just came. Everyone was asking me, we actually have the IRS tax records of the fact that the Gates Foundation gave the Clinton Foundation $100 million. In fact, $170 million in 2018. Bobby Kennedy knows all this. So the Gates Foundation gave $180 million, and he's telling lies that I got money from the Clintons. I've not gotten one penny. I'd like to see it. I asked my accountants. So think about how sinister the Kennedys are. Think about how they behave when they get exposed. They weave lies. And all of you folks on Instagram, those people who want to leave because you think I'm a vaccine maker, that you think I have relationships with Bill Gates, and you don't do your research, you should follow Bobby Kennedy. This is not the right platform for you. You should not be following me. You should go follow him. But if you want truth, freedom, and health, follow me. If you want celebrity, if you want to be bullshitted, go follow them. And you will end up down the slaughterhouse of power, profit, and control and manipulation. That's not what this platform is about. This platform will always be about truth, freedom, and health. And that's why we're going to win the US Senate race with your help. Nearly 30 million Americans today are out of work. 30 million. 30 million. And this was brought to you by the lawyer lobbyists like the Kennedys. They're all lawyers. They're all lawyers. They're not engineers. They couldn't build something like CytoSolve. They couldn't fix anything. They're not like everyday working people here. It's time that we had a revolution for truth, freedom, and health. And it's not going to come top down. It's not going to come through speaking about unity. Unity schmunity. It's going to come from truth. It's not about unity. It's about building what true is. Mexicans for Dr. Shiva. All right. What are there? Let's see. Trump cannot be trusted, someone's saying. Latinos for Shiva. Gracias. Bridget says, we will win. Love your honesty. Thank you. He does not make vaccines. Exactly. Yes. Make it very clear to people. In fact, if you go here, if you go to this wonderful site that we built, again, everyone, if everyone wants to go to vashiva.com/RFK exposed. Let me just repeat that. vashiva.com/RFK exposed. Right now, I'm going to bring it up and everyone can follow along with me. Everyone go to vashiva, V as in Victor, shiva.com/RFK exposed. In fact, I'll put it up right here. Maybe Jen, you can put it up, vashiva.com/RFK EXPOSED. Everyone should go there. Hey, Jen, can you put it in there? There. So if you go to vashiva.com/RFK exposed, everyone getting there? Everyone on Instagram, please go there if you want to. Great. Okay. Everyone go there. Oh, and by the way, Oprah just did a tour funded by Pfizer. Okay? And that's who Robbie Kennedy's doing. Telling everyone to get their flu shot. Oprah Winfrey just did a big tour with Pfizer. We got to add this, telling everyone to get their flu shots. And this is who RFK is collaborating with. Okay? She's a complete, total sellout Aunt Jemima. That's what Oprah Winfrey is. So I want everyone to go here, and I want you to take your time. You know, by the way, this site was built by myself and my team, and this is what we did. You can see this beautiful site. And one of the things I've challenged Robbie Kennedy here, it says at 11:50 p.m. yesterday, Dr. Shiva challenged Robert Kennedy to provide one iota of evidence on which vaccines his company, CytoSolve, is a maker. Dr. Shiva provided him 24 hours to show such evidence. In fact, Dr. Shiva said he would shut down his company if it was found he's a vaccine maker. Everyone see that? I will shut down my company if it is anyone can prove that I'm a vaccine maker. Second, Dr. Shiva challenged Robert F. Kennedy to show even one iota of evidence that he's partnered with Bill Gates. And Dr. Shiva challenged Robert Kennedy to prove evidence that he is receiving money from the Clintons. So what I want to share with you here is this is what's called classic CIA disinformation. Classic CIA disinformation and deflection. Because what I was sharing with people as you go down to this website again was the fact that Mr. Robert Kennedy, in his own words, let me play it right here. This is what he said.
Minister Farrakhan has asked me to address the issue of vaccines and African American and vaccine safety. I want to start out by saying this, and I want to say it emphatically.
Emphatically.
I'm pro-vaccine. I've always been fiercely pro-vaccine. I had all 6 of my children vaccinated, and I believe that we ought to have policies that encourage full vaccination for all Americans. I want to say it emphatically. I am pro-vaccine. I've always been fiercely pro-vaccine. I had all 6 of my children vaccinated, and I believe that we ought to have policies that encourage full vaccination for all Americans. And I want to say it emphatically. I am pro-vaccine. I've always been fiercely pro-vaccine. I had all 6 of my children vaccinated, and I believe that we ought to have policies that encourage full vaccination. I want to start out by saying this, and I want to say it emphatically. I am pro-vaccine. I've always been fiercely pro-vaccine. I had all 6 of my children vaccinated, and I believe that we ought to have policies that encourage full vaccination for all Americans.
Okay, so I hope that's very clear, the point I'm making. So you should share that with people. The second thing we want to share is Robert Kennedy, his close political allies, Hillary Clinton, who's pro-vaccine mandates. So you can see Hillary took money from Monsanto, which is one of the most awful companies on the planet. And then he says that she's a fighter against pharma, blatant lie. She got the most amount of funding. As you can see from pharma right here, Trump got very little. And you can see she was actually tweeting out how great vaccines are and how safe they are. This is all, as you'll see shortly, all throughout the period Robbie Kennedy knew about all of this. And Robbie Kennedy still endorsed Hillary Clinton after knowing her foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, had a major partnership with Merck for distribution of that horrible vaccine, which has injured a lot of women, young women, Gardasil. And then over here, you can see Robbie Kennedy featured in the Vax 2 movie where he was speaking out against HPV, and he still endorsed a Clinton Kane ticket. And the Kane ticket is Clinton Kane ticket. Kane is one who required all girls mandated to get the HPV vaccine before they could enroll. And then here's fact 3. In spite of all of that, he he endorsed her in 2000, 2007. Here's another article in 2008. All the Kennedys, including him, endorsed her, and in 2016. And then you'll see fact 4, how he's now supporting his nephew right here in Massachusetts because his nephew's afraid he's going to lose, so he's brought in his uncle. Okay, and not only did he endorse him, he also just raised money for him. And Joe Kennedy III is pro-vaccine mandates. Okay, and then let me just finish with this. The most important thing, this is character. His family and he are friends. We're friends with Jeffrey Epstein and had dinner with him. Okay, I would never do this. And then here's the truth. Here's the lies of Robbie Kennedy. He says, I'm a vaccine maker. People should go here. What is CytoSolve? As I just shared with you, CytoSolve, the goal is to eliminate animal testing. We discover new medicines. We can substantiate things like I just went through with the products. And you can see all the things CytoSolve has achieved. And over here, what does CytoSolve make? We don't make vaccines. We create molecular pathway models. Anyway, I encourage everyone to go here and enjoy this site. It's a beautiful, beautiful site. VAShiva.com/RFK exposed. And that's it. Is there any other questions, Jen? Any other questions? Okay, let's build something here. Exactly. Look, we have a huge opportunity by winning the election in Massachusetts because the center of the deep state of the world is Massachusetts. All the major institutions, Harvard and MIT here, all the big pharma companies, all the Facebooks, all the Googles, all the tech companies. It's not Washington, D.C., it's Massachusetts. And you got someone like me behind enemy lines. So you got to watch my back. I need you to watch my back. I need you to support this movement. And the way you can support is go to shivaforsenate.com, support yourself. We need to win. And the real enemies are the people who are the not so obvious establishment. And by the way, one other thing I want to share with you is we have some very good news. We also, in fact, I'll share with that tonight. Nikely Ditter, listen to Dr. Shiva and stop spreading lies. Exactly. Those of you who think I'm a vaccine maker, those of you who think I have a relation with Gates or Clinton's, you are falling into the devil's trap. That's what this is. And this is what the Kennedys have done over and over and over again. They're sinister people. And the reason they're so afraid is because they're afraid that I'll win their seat. They think they own that seat. This is why when we say, Dr. Shiva, be the light, we're talking about people need to raise their sword of truth and go after these people. And that's why I created that site, vashiva.com/RFK exposed, RFK exposed. And the real snakes are those people because it's a pot calling the kettle black. They're the snakes. And if you believe in truth, freedom, and health, you'll get it. If not, that's okay. You have to follow your path and maybe this is not the lifetime for you. That's okay too. What else we got? Anything else? Santosh Vela, Gary, great. All right. Yep. Win. Yep. Exactly. And so I hope this has been valuable. I will be doing, by the way, there's some of you may know there's a new drug that just came out that that Fauci's pushing. My team has been working day and night. We're actually doing the analysis of that drug just like this. I'll be sharing with you some data this evening. Hopefully I'll have it all together to go through the clinical trials, to actually go through what the analysis is, and we'll be sharing that data with everyone tonight. And if everyone wants to support our campaign and you want to volunteer, you're in Massachusetts or anywhere, first tell all your friends to support the campaign, wherever they are. If you must have anyone in Massachusetts should go and pledge, donate to the campaign, get that book, learn your body, your system. Exactly. We have to promote the light. Leonie Bell. Look, working people get this. The people that don't get this are the non-working people. I may I'll do this tonight, but I have a couple of guests that are going to join us too. Yes, Aaron at Health Nut News is an idiot. So everyone go to Aaron at Health Nut News and maybe share with her the truth because she's a nut and she knows nothing about health. Fake news. That's what Health Nut News is. Everyone should boycott Health Nut News. Health Nut News is unless she apologizes to me, Health Nut News should be boycotted. She's a shill of Robbie Kennedy. And you see, it's very easy to be in the Stockholm syndrome. People are hostage, and the way they get hostage is the Kennedys just put out all this propaganda, and we forgive them for all the nonsense they do. And Aaron at Health Nut is, talking against you. So everyone go to Aaron at Health Nut News and maybe share with us what a nut she is for supporting Robbie Kennedy, and go to vashiva.com/RFK exposed. And, one of the features, as some of you know, my name is Shiva. And in the Indian Hinduism, Shiva is a destroyer of ignorance. He's a destroyer of ignorance. And Shivaites, people who support Shiva, are also people who want to destroy ignorance. Truth, freedom, and health. So all of you guys who support Shiva for Senate want to destroy ignorance. And that's what this is about. It's about being the light. Because if you believe in our Creator and God, that we are all sparks of light, and it's time for light. And we are in a battle. And the battle is not just the Faucis and the Gates, it's the Kennedys. It's the people who act like they're, and also the ignorant sheeple who follow them. That's part of the thing. And so we are at a war. This is not about unity. There can be no unity when there's lies. It's not about unity. We unify around truth. See, they just want unity so they can cover up their lies. That's not how it works. They'll go unify with Oprah. This is not about that. This is about unity for truth. Everyone get that? Unity for truth. Unity for truth, freedom, and health. Not unity for bullshit. Okay? That's what the Kennedys do. They run little theatrics. But we got into them. Okay? Yeah, Erin at Health Nut News. And, she should have a little talk to people. Should go educate her. And if she still wants to be stupid, she can be stupid. Okay? That's right. We open our third eye right here. That's what needs to be open. The Bible talks about it also. Yep. So it's whether you want truth. Anyone out here? Fauci funded the coronavirus lab. Yep. Which I brought up much, much earlier on. In fact, I brought that up about 3 months ago. Pre-recorded. Someone says, I don't know what this guy's saying. Your reaction shows that the Kennedys got to you. No, they didn't get to me. We share the truth. He's not a fraud. Wake up, people. Brave hearts united. Exactly. So Kennedy hires trolls here. Unity for truth. That's right. We don't know what Health Nut News said. Go look them up. The bottom line is that this is a moment when this will separate people who have a brain on their heads and are enlightened, and the people who follow the whatever they want to follow, the icons. This is not about icon worship or idol worship. This is about truth. And that's what the Bible and people like Jesus were talking about. This is not about worshiping idols and icons. This is about truth. Okay, everyone. I got to get some dinner. I got a volunteer meeting. Anyone out there who wants to be a volunteer, go to Shiva for Senate, support us. But let's win, win, win. Truth, freedom, health. Truth, freedom, health. Truth, freedom, health. And by the way, I look forward to bringing you, if you guys have other ideas of other things, exactly. Kennedy's bad co-ops movements. If you have ideas of any other stuff you want me to run through CytoSolve, any other things, we'll try to do it. I mean, we've had so little time with all the stuff that's going on, but we have a great science team. But remember, we create models. We don't make vaccines. Thank you very much. Be the light. Be well. Thank you. Okay, Instagram. Be well, everyone. Thank you.